Reboot your brain. How to quickly and easily start getting anything you want and instantly experience a higher level of thinking. Now, I know what's probably going through your head right now. A couple of things. One, what in the world is rebooting your brain? You've probably heard of rebooting a computer, but not rebooting your brain. And two, all that getting anything you want and how to instantly experience a higher level of thinking stuff sounds like a bunch of crap. Sounds like a bunch of hype and promises and almost like a joke. Well, I want to tell you that you're about to learn something that I've basically developed and fine-tuned for myself over about, it's probably been over 15 years now since I started doing this method on a regular basis, and it really changed my life. If you don't know it by now, this is John Reese, and you probably got here because you're on my list, or maybe a friend of yours told you about this little presentation and told you to come to this thing and told you to come watch this video to maybe get something out of it, and I think you will. But for those of you that have come from my own list to check out this thing, the reason why I created this is twofold, really. One is I'm about to hold my online web class about building internet wealth. It's going to be a multi-week intensive class. And a lot of the questions that I've been getting about this class are you going to teach us the latest ninja tricks for getting to the top of Google, and are you going to be teaching us this, and are you going to be teaching us, the special color to put on, the order form to get more people to order? And so the answer to all those questions is pretty much no. I'm not going to be going into specific little tricks and techniques. I'll be covering some main methods and theories about all of the things that are important to your business and doing business on the internet. But it's not going to be about little tricks and strategies and the latest method of the month or concept of the month in internet marketing, as internet marketing stuff is very fickle and changes all the time, and everyone runs to one little trick that can kind of make you more money or get you more traffic. So it's not going to be about that. What we're going to be covering is a lot of hardcore mindset stuff, a lot of fundamental stuff about running a business, growing a business, working with other people in your business, where you should be spending your time, what you should be thinking about, how to think about markets and figuring out how to grow your business or start a new business. A lot of very, very powerful things. All of these things that I've developed into my own little system and way of doing things for myself and all of the internet businesses that I've personally started and that I've basically, as weird as this sounds for me to even say it out loud, because it's just weird, that have made me a self-made internet millionaire from doing things on the internet over the course of more than 15 years now. So that class is all about that. If you want more information about the class, that's not the reason that I made this video. So you can read it in the blog post, what you can do if you want to learn more about the class. But mainly why I created this video was it reminded me, hearing all the feedback about the class, that most people don't realize that it's the deep mindset type stuff that really makes the most money and ultimately has the biggest effect and change in your life. And so I was just thinking about a lot of different things that I do on a regular basis, because I constantly have people email me and say, what is it that you actually do every day? I would love to look over your shoulder and figure out what John Reese does and kind of what you're doing on the computer, what you're looking at, or what you do with your time. For whatever reason, people are fascinated by what I must be doing in my own life. Well, one of the things I do on a regular basis is this concept that I want to teach you, because I really believe it will change your life. Many of the concepts that you're going to learn in this process, for me, turned my life around in many different ways. And it's not just related to making money in my financial life, but because I'm a marketing teacher and you're probably on my list for marketing, this will really relate to you and making money and changing your financial life. If someone happened to share this with you and you came here and you just want to check it out and maybe you have no interest in starting your own business, you can get a lot out of this for anything else in your life. So this is very, very powerful stuff. I can't express that enough. And the other thing I just want to say is, back in regards to how this kind of turned my life around, I can pinpoint the exact moment in time when I was almost 23 years old, about $108,000 in debt, and literally suicidal, literally feeling like there was no reason to live, literally feeling like life was hopeless, that it sucked, that it wasn't worth moving forward with. and just really being at basically my darkest hour. And one of the things I did at that time was well, I'm not going to ruin the surprise for you. Haha. I'm going to make you go through this thing, and then I'll explain it to you, because it changed my life, and it literally put me on a different path, and as weird as it sounds, made me rich. And I'm going to explain that to you here. So let's talk about this. Rebooting your brain. Why you must reboot your brain. And again, this applies to any human being for any reason whatsoever. This isn't just about, changing your finances. Here's why you must reboot your brain. You have hundreds of thoughts right now that are stuck in your head, and you don't even realize it. You walk around every day and you have all these things that are kind of in your head, subconsciously and consciously. They're just there. And by the way, what I'm going to talk to you about and teach you might be in bits and pieces in different books, or you may have heard someone else talk about some of this kinds of stuff. I have no idea. I've never read about this anywhere. I've read about certain parts of what I'm going to teach you in different places. But I just kind of, for some weird reason in my wacky brain, ended up formulating this process for myself. And I continue to fine-tune it all the time. I've kind of taught part of this process before in the past, but this is my latest system and how I do this, and it's very, very important. So back to why you must reboot your brain. I don't mean to keep sidebarring here. The thing about these thoughts are, these thoughts that you have stuck in your head are adding to your stress, your anxiety, and they're keeping you from a better quality of life. And I'm going to prove it to you when you go through this concept to reboot your brain. The one thing you must think about is your brain is a lot like a computer. If you know what RAM is in a computer, it's basically the memory space in a computer where it will temporarily, when you load a program, it will temporarily load code for the program into that little space. Well, when you reboot the computer, all the programs that you had running were taking up that space. It's basically wiped clean, and it's not using any more of that memory. It's now wide open and can be used for other things. And of course, that RAM has a finite limit and can only hold so many programs running at once, according to how much RAM's in your computer. Well, the brain is very similar. And we ultimately don't know the limits of how many thoughts and things and ideas and concepts that we can try to hold on to in our memory are the limits of our brain. But there's certainly some kind of limit, and I'm sure a lot of us have reached it and don't even realize it. And it's probably having all kinds of other effects on what we think about and how we think. So I believe this rebooting process, so to speak, that I've come up with is very important for that sake as well. It kind of clears your head. But it does more than that, and I'm really going to get into that. The other reason you really need to reboot your brain is because your memory, your ability to make decisions, and your personal progress as a human being in your life are all being held back. I really and truly and sincerely believe this because I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen it in people I've shared this concept with. You're about to learn how to easily fix this problem and change your life forever. I'm talking about all these things stuck in your head and so on and so forth. And yes, it's free. Even though I am a pretty good marketer, I'm not selling anything here. I could probably make this a little product and put up a sales letter and get people to pay $20 for it and sell it. I'm not. It's free. I actually want people to be helped by watching this video. Again, if you're watching this and someone told you about this video and you could care less about internet business, which is kind of what I mainly teach, that's great. I don't care. I think you'll get some great things out of this and your life will be better off for it. So here's what you'll need to do this. The first thing you'll need, or number one, I should say, you'll need 3 legal pads. These could also be 3 separate notebooks or 3 similar pads of paper, but they need to be 3 separate pads of paper to work ideally for this concept. I like legal pads. They work well, so I suggest 3 legal pads. Your favorite pen. Get a pen that you feel comfortable with kind of writing a lot of words with or a lot of thoughts with. Something you can do a lot of writing with. So get your favorite pen, go locate it, and get it. And finally, you need a quiet place where you'll not be distracted or interrupted. Now, how long will this process take that I'm about to teach you? It could take you 20 minutes. It could take you 6 hours. It all depends on how badly you need to reboot your brain. The first time you do this, it will probably take you a considerable amount of time, probably at least a good hour. Now, don't be afraid by hearing this and have it stop you from going off to do this concept. You need to do it right now, today, as soon as you can, because I guarantee you it will change your life. That sounds hokey, Sounds like, it could be a Richard Simmons commercial. I could be jumping around on a cruise ship telling you how you're going to lose weight and it's going to change your life. But really, this thing could change your life. It could absolutely change your life. So I really want you to do this. And of course, if you look in this blog entry, I'm going to encourage people to post their comments and their feedback on this. You'll be able to read what other people get out of doing this, so you'll know it works and you'll know you should go do it. Okay. You need this quiet place so you will not be distracted and interrupted. When you sit down and start this process, you can't afford to be interrupted. Now, it's not like you're going to have a Windows crash or something in your brain if you get interrupted, but it will stop you from the flow that you'll get in, and a very powerful flow that you'll get in with your brain. And again, once you start doing this, you'll see for yourself how powerful this concept and this exercise really is. I can't stress it enough, but I'm just going to have you see for yourself. So find a quiet place where you're not being distracted and interrupted, and that you can actually sit in peace, for quite a bit of time, at least some place where you won't be bugged for an hour. Now, I know if you have kids and other stuff going on, and that may not be possible, but do your best. Okay, let's reboot in 8 steps. Here's the first step. Step 1, we need to do what's called the to-do expedition. Now, some of this you've heard before, but this is different. Follow the steps one by one and just do what I tell you. And of course, watch this whole video first before you go and get started, but take some notes while you're listening to this video about what these steps are and what you're going to do. And of course, watch the video again or pause it, rewind it, whatever you need to do to get all these steps down so you'll do them properly. But step 1 is what we call the to-do expedition. You're literally going to go on this journey in your head. And that's why I'm calling it an expedition, because it is quite a journey. It's quite a discovery phase. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to take one of your legal pads and your pen, and you're going to sit down and you are going to think of all the things in your life that you need to do. This could be from paying the electric bill this month that's not paid yet, and you know it's not paid. It's sitting on the kitchen counter. You know it's in your head. You keep telling yourself, I need to just remind myself to pay it. Whether it's go next door to your neighbors, and finally speak up about them, telling them that you don't really care for their dog barking at late hours of the night, or that you need to call your Aunt Susan because you haven't really said hello in almost a year now, and you just know that you need to do it. Or going to the dentist because maybe you haven't been to the dentist in 17 years and you're kind of feeling that maybe your teeth are changing colors. Whatever the case may be, everything you think that you need to do. Maybe it's go back to college. Maybe it's to look in the paper and be more proactive about getting a job. Maybe it's to start on a weight loss plan. Whatever it is, think of everything that's possibly stored in your head somewhere that you need to do in your life. Maybe it's something you'll end up doing in 3 years, or may take you 3 years to do. It doesn't matter. Think of everything you have stored in your head about everything you can think of that you need to do. And what you'll find is as you write these things down, one will lead to another, and it'll lead to another, and it'll lead to another. That's okay. Just keep writing them down on one line at a time. You want one entry on each line. Don't make side notes or anything else. And if one thought kind of leads to another thought that's kind of related, it doesn't matter. One line by itself. Write, flip to a new page. Write, flip to a new page. Write, flip to a new page. So write everything you can think of that you have to do. And write and write and write. Now this could be things that you need to do for your business. I need to go and set up a Google AdWords account and just start running traffic to my site. I know I need to do it, I just haven't done it. I know I need to test a new headline on my sales letter page. I haven't been able to do it. I've been lazy for whatever reason, or I haven't been productive for whatever reason. Who cares? All the excuses aside, this isn't about excuses. This isn't to make you feel bad about things you haven't gotten done or accomplished in your life. This is more powerful than that, and it's going to change your life. So write down everything you can think of that you need to do, or that you've been, kind of wanting to do, but haven't had the time to do it. Write it all down. And keep writing until you can't think of anything else that you know you need to do in your life. It may take some time, but don't stop until you honestly cannot think of anything else that you need to do. The reason for doing this, and this is very important, this is unlike making other to-do lists and things that maybe you've read about before. You want to work your brain to the point of exhaustion. You want to completely exhaust the thoughts in your brain, so your brain almost can't think of anything else that you've ever thought of to do. But you're going to dump all this stuff out onto paper. And you're going to do it until you can honestly sit there for at least 5 to 10 minutes and not think of anything else that you've ever kind of wanted to remind yourself to do or that you've ever thought about doing or anything that you actually need to do. It's critical that you do this until you exhaust all those thoughts. Again, it may take you 20 minutes, it may take you 6 hours. It doesn't matter. You need to do this as a person. You need to write all these things down. And by the way, it may seem endless for some people. It did for me the first time I did this. You may think, gosh, this is going to take me 10 weeks. I'm never going to actually get up off this chair and stop doing this. It's not true. You will run out before you think you will. But just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. It's a very liberating feeling anyways, but just keep writing. But you have to do it to the point of exhaustion. Now, not to get too Zen-like or into any kind of other, stuff, because I'm not necessarily into that stuff. But I do know that I've read a lot about people that do yoga or that meditate. That's often said that when people that learn to meditate and perfect it reach a space in their mind where they think about nothing. And that's the beauty of meditation. Well, that's kind of what you're going to get to here when you write all this stuff down until you exhaust everything you can't write anymore. You're going to reach a sense of peace, and you won't be able to think of anything else to do. The next step, you're going to get another pad. It has to be a separate pad. Don't just flip 4 pages and start writing on other pages. A separate pad. Take the to-do pad and literally go across the room and set it down and forget about it. You're not going to come back to it even if you start thinking of other to-do things right now. Get out this second pad, and now you're going to go on what I call the desire adventure. I want you to sit there now, and it's got to be kind of hard to shift gears between these 2 steps. You may want to, after you do the to-do step, the step 1, take a break, get a drink, go for a little walk, go outside, get some air, refresh yourself, then come back in and sit down when you've kind of reset yourself and cleared your mind a little bit and relaxed a second and gotten away from the focus on the to-do stuff. Sit down with the second pad, and here's what you're going to do. I want you to write down everything you can possibly think of that you want to have in your life, or that you want to be different in your life, or whatever you want your life to be about. These could be material things. I want a Jaguar. I want a new Mercedes. I want to have a BMW SUV. I want a minivan, a brand new one, a 2006 or 7 or whatever. Doesn't matter. I want, a diamond necklace or 5-carat earrings or a Rolex watch or 10 new suits, or 40 new pairs of shoes. It could be anything. I want a Picasso original for my house. I want a big screen TV. I want a home theater. I want a sauna in my house. I want a state-of-the-art elliptical machine. I want to have a tanning bed in my home. I mean, whatever, people have all kinds of wants and things, and whatever you think of that you want in your life, what is it that you want to have? If you could have anything, if you could have a blank check to write for anything right now that you could buy, that is, what would you want? Write it down. Write down everything. If you really had means to have anything you wanted today and you were going to die tomorrow and you said, well, I have one day just to enjoy it all, write it down. What is all that stuff? If you could have any house that you could possibly have, how big is it? How many bedrooms? What does it look like? Where would it be? Write these things down. These are things that you truly want in your life. If you could snap your fingers and make it happen, and you could have, let's say, what we call the perfect life, what would that perfect life look like? What are all the things that would be around you? Again, this is if you had no limits at all. Don't think about limits. If you didn't have any, what life would you want? Would you wake up and roll out of bed and look at the beach? Would it be the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean? Would you be in the mountains? Well, where would it be? Write all these things down. Write what you want in your life. Do you want to run one of the biggest, charitable organizations for homeless people in the world? Write it down. That's what you want. Do you want to have a massive book publishing business just so you can, take in young young authors and help them publish their first book because that's something you'd like to do? Write it down. Do you want to start a toy company because you've always wanted to create educational toys for kids? Write it down. Do you want to adopt 19 children from Africa? Write it down. Anything you want anything you truly desire or dream about and truly want to have in your life, if you could snap your fingers and get it, what would it be? Write it down. Write down everything you've ever thought, dreamed about, or even want today in your life. Lose 35 pounds. Have a smaller nose. Be able to run faster. Doesn't matter. Write it down. How would your life be different? Maybe you're single. Maybe you want to have a great, healthy, loving relationship, with some 6'5", tall, dark, and handsome Italian guy. I can tell you personally that's not my desire, but maybe it's yours. Write it down. Write down what it is that you really want. And write until you can't write anymore. I don't want you to stop. You've got this magic thing that you'll be able to snap your fingers and make all this stuff happen for you. So don't waste it. You're only going to have one shot here. So write down everything you want and don't stop writing until you can't think of anything else that you really want. Again, it's about pushing your brain to the point of exhaustion. Right now, your brain is holding on to all these dreams and desires. You know the things you want. You think about them all the time. Every time you go to work, you're probably thinking, gosh, I can't wait to get a raise so I'll be able to afford to buy this or be able to afford to do that, or be able to have all my, eventually have my kids' college funds all paid for. Again, if you want your kids' college funds all paid for now, write it down. If you want your kids to eventually graduate from Harvard, write it down. That's something you desire in your life. That's something you want. Write everything down that you want. So push yourself to the point of exhaustion till you can't think of anything else that you want. And then you're done. When you've done that, and it may take you some time, it could take 20 minutes, it could take 2 hours. But you've got a lot of that stuff in your head because you've thought about it your entire life, but you've probably never written it down before. You've probably never consciously made yourself focus on all the things you really want. By the way, I'm really big in visualization exercises kind of like this. And I believe that's really one of the keys to my success and why I've become successful and pretty much have the life I ultimately want, although it kind of changes on a weekly basis. And that's the reason why you want to do this exercise on a regular basis. And I'll explain that kind of when we get done with this. But it works, and it's kind of, if you believe in the law of attraction, some do, some don't. I don't know if I do 100%. I think there's definitely something to it. But the law of attraction is kind of this, mystical force of the universe that kind of says we become what we think about. It's almost like we send out signals to the universe that bring back things to us to make the things happen that we're focused on. Whether that's true or not, or whether it's just the fact that because we focus on certain things, our brain makes connections to actually take action and do things and create results that make those things happen, maybe that's it too. But so you're going to finish writing all the things that you really want in your life and do. And my point about bringing up the visualization thing is I do this a lot. I really spend time thinking about right now what should be different in my life that I'd like, or what would I like to be different? Than what I currently have, and that's something I want. So that's something I need to write down and figure out. And so that's what you need to do. When you've pushed that to the point of exhaustion, step 3. Throw that desire pad away, put it over on the other side of the room, throw it on top of the to-do pad, go outside, get a walk, go for a walk, get something to drink, get a snack, whatever you need to do. Take a break, kind of shrug your shoulders, get the blood flowing again, move around a little bit. And by the way, when you do this kind of stuff, it helps to walk around a little bit. Don't just sit in a chair still for an hour or 10 minutes. You need blood flow to maximize, I think the neurons in your brain. By the way, I'm not a brain surgeon. What I just said could be totally false, but at least it sounds good. But walk around, get the blood flowing, because obviously your brain does work on blood flow. So walk around a little bit as you do this. Make some notes, sit down, stand up, walk around, think of some more to-do things, or think of some more things you want or desire, then write them down. Okay, back to the action. When you take a break, you're going to come back and do step 3. The third legal pad all by itself. Again, don't just use the same notebook because you're going to learn why in a minute. So here's what I want you to write down. Now, this is really going to suck for some people. This is a really tough thing to do. And this is one of the things that completely changed my life personally from being very, very, I don't know if poor is the right word, pretty unhappy financially and in a heck of a lot of debt. It's probably transcends poor. When you're $100,000 in debt, it's not that you don't make a lot of money. It's that you probably don't make a lot of money and you're so far in the hole, it's just laughable. And maybe you're listening to this and maybe you're in a lot of debt. That's okay, because doing this can help you get out of it. I mean it. Okay, here's what this is. On the third pad, I want you to sit and think about all the things that you're afraid of in your life. What are you afraid of? Write them all down. I'm afraid to die alone, and not be married or to never have kids. I'm afraid I'm going to get hit by a car. I'm afraid I'm going to die in a plane crash. I hate it every time I fly. I'm afraid that there's going to be an eviction notice on my front door and then I'm going to get kicked out. I'm afraid my business will go under and I won't be able to pay my bills and I'll lose my marriage because, maybe I'm supporting my family and I'll let my wife down. And maybe I'm afraid that my wife will leave me because I've been working, really hard and I'm determined to make the business work and to have it support my family. And I'm just afraid that if it gets to a point where it kind of takes steps backwards or doesn't improve, that I'll be a failure and she'll leave me because I've basically ruined our family's financial life. Write down your fears. I'm afraid one of my children or all my children or a certain child or whatever will get kidnapped, will wander off from me when I'm in the mall and somebody will snatch them. What are you afraid of? Write it down. Write down everything that scares you. Just everything you can think of. What are the things that you're afraid of? What are you so afraid of? You've probably heard the phrase before. Face your fears. Face your fears. Well, part of this concept, this exercise, all this reboot process connected together has a lot to do with that. And when you write all this stuff down, you'll be facing your fears. I'm going to talk about it more in a moment. But it's very, very powerful. And what you'll find is when you face your fears or dump them out of your brain like this and write them down, one, you realize they're not as scary as they really are. And two, you'll figure out there are solutions to eliminate the fears or at least make them not as bad or not as consuming. Okay, so you're going to write down everything you can think of that you're afraid of. I'm afraid of snakes. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of tripping down the stairs and getting embarrassed. I'm afraid of sitting in the dentist's office waiting room and accidentally farting and being completely embarrassed. By the way, that actually happened to me when I was 18, and I'm not proud of it, nor do I like to tell the story, but I just wanted to share that with you. Anyways, write down everything you're afraid of. Everything you possibly think that you're afraid of. It's very important. And do it to the point, again, of exhaustion. You can't think of anything else you're afraid of. Okay, step 4, here's what you're going to do. Now, you're going to take a break after you do the third step. You're going to now come back, after you've got a drink, walked around, got a snack, whatever you need to do, kind of shrugged your shoulders, moved around, got the blood flowing. Now, here's what you're going to do. Sit back down with all 3 notepads. Stack them in the order you work them. The to-do first, then desire, then fear. That order. You're going to start with the to-do. You're going to go line by line, page by page until it's done, and then you're going to do the same with the desire one and then the fear one. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to read all of your entries, one by one, out loud. And of course, like I just said, in the order you wrote them down. You're actually going to read these things out loud. Now, this does a lot of things, I believe, in the brain. I've worked this exercise by not reading them out loud, and then I've kind of made this tweak along the way and did it out loud. And I find that it makes a tremendous difference. Something to do with how it connects with your brain when you speak it, along with the fact that you wrote it down. So speak them out loud, one by one, until you've actually said them all. And you're kind of like confirming them. That that you thought of it, you wrote it down, and you know what it means. It's not like you're going to say it and go, "What is that?" You'll know what it is. So you're kind of reminding yourself of all these things you just got out of your head. Okay. Step 5 is you're going to write down any new thoughts on the appropriate list when it pops in your head. So let's say you're going down the to-do list and you're reading these things out loud. As you read them out, it's probably going to remind you of other things you need to do. Write those down. Add them to the to-do list. Go to the end of the list and just add them to the end. And again, to the point of exhaustion. If something you're reading out loud starts firing all kinds of ideas and to-dos, write it down. But if you start reading the to-dos and it reminds you of a fear, write the fear down on the fear pad. If it reminds you of something you really want in your life or something to be different in your life, write it down. You'll find there's quite a bit of crossover sometimes between things you want and things you need to do. So you may have duplicates on the list, or there may be some crossover. You may sometimes be confused on which list. It doesn't really matter. Just write it down whatever flow you're in and where you think it's appropriate, and that's going to be good enough ultimately. Step number 6. You're going to examine your fear entries. Now, this is kind of scary. It can be really scary. This is really about facing your fears. Examine your fear entries and think of possible solutions that can alleviate them. I'm afraid that I'm going to have a heart attack because I'm now 60 years old and I'm kind of overweight and I have a friend that recently had a stroke and I'm just freaking out. I'm so afraid that I'm going to have a heart attack. It's all I think about. Well, what are some possible solutions that can alleviate this fear? Well, you know darn well if you go to the doctor and get a checkup and you find out what your blood pressure is and you face the music of what your situation is and you find out how many pounds overweight you really are to where you could really help your blood pressure and your health, you know the solution. Lose weight, get in shape, change your cholesterol, change your diet, exercise more, whatever. Now you got things to add to your to-do list. If you truly want to change that in your life and no longer be afraid of it. Frankly, life's too short to be afraid of anything. That's what I think. And it doesn't mean I don't have fears myself. Of course I do. I'm human. But life is too short to let fear consume you. Fear of anything. So if we can do, there's certain things we can't really control as much. Fear of getting cancer. That's a big one that a lot of people have these days. Cancer is such a mysterious thing. There isn't some set regimen we can go and do that will guarantee that we don't somehow end up with cancer. That's just a fact. So a lot of these things, we can't eliminate. But, there are some studies and some findings, that basically say, for this example, that a lot of times cancer has a lot to do with the immune system. So if we, make sure we get plenty of sleep and we do have a good diet and we're doing a lot of other things to strengthen our bodies, scientists believe that's one of the methods for at least, hopefully, holding off some cancers. That's a possible solution. That's something maybe you'll think about doing, and that is something that could alleviate your fears. And you know what? If that's not true, at least you can brainwash yourself to not be as afraid, just because it's a possibility. Who knows? Brain's very powerful. But examine your fears and think of, why am I afraid of this? And what could I do about this? What really could I do about this? If I'm really afraid that my kid's going to get snatched from the mall, maybe I need to sit down with my child and have a better talk about not allowing them to run off and really putting more discipline into that fact, or, having them go to places where it's not totally safe. Maybe I need to put more focus into that. And if I do, it can help, alleviate my fear, because being afraid of stuff is only going to control your life in a negative way. And again, according to the law of attraction or whatever you want to call it, about becoming what we think about, it's very possible, that you could attract bad things to happen by being so consumed by it. But if anything, it's a proven fact that just by focusing on negative thoughts and worry alone is something that contributes to stress and anxiety, which is known, a scientific fact, that it can create illness and it can create health problems. So that's reason enough to work to try to alleviate some of these fears, and to stop worrying about certain things. And if you happen to be religious, if you're not, I'm not judging you. It's not a problem, no big deal. But if you happen to be religious at all and you've read much of the Bible, then you may also know or not know that worry, in a sense, is a sin and something you shouldn't do. And it's probably for a good reason, for whatever reason that message wanted to get that message across. Because again, it probably relates to all kinds of other things like bad health and everything else, like I just said. So anyways, look at your fear entries, think about possible situations, solutions, things that can alleviate them, and then add those to your to-do list. Or if it's something that you want that may eliminate that fear, like let's say, you're really afraid of ending up alone, so then maybe you'll add to the desire list what kind of person you want if you hadn't already thought of it, or you hope somebody at the office asks you out on a date, whatever the case is, write it down. So add to whatever pad you need to add to. Now, if you think of a complete solution that you believe can really eliminate your fear, like if you're afraid of a heart attack and you say, if I really did finally get off my butt and got into better shape, I wouldn't be afraid of having a heart attack anymore, because if the doctor tells me my blood pressure is low and that my health is good, I would trust it and would believe it. Well then, if you can do that, you can just totally strike your fear off your list. and just add the things to the to-do list and just follow through on the to-dos, and don't focus on the fear thing anymore. You've striked it off. You have no reason to be afraid of it. You now have the solution, and you're going to do that. Step 7, examine your desire entries and think of possible solutions so you can acquire them. If you think of things to do or fear, add it to that list. So as you're thinking about things you ultimately want in your life, you may think about some things that have to do with it that kind of make you afraid. Maybe this will never happen, or maybe it won't happen. Like, for example, let's say you ultimately want to be with a certain type of person or whatever, but you fear, maybe I'm not pretty enough to be with that type of person. Write it down. That's something you're afraid of. Maybe that's already not one of your fears. Well, now it is. Now it's something to recognize. That's a subconscious, kind of problem that you have that you don't even realize. You're insecure about it. That was the word I was digging for. That's why there was that nice long pause there. But write it down. Those are insecurities. You need to write. Insecurities are fears. Write it down, all of them down. Because a lot of times there are solutions to insecurities, and they can alleviate fears and make you worry less about them. So examine these things you want and think of possible solutions. How can I get a new Jaguar? What do I need to do to get it? That's really what I want. What do I need to do to get it? My solution, being a marketer, being a serial entrepreneur, being someone that's really fascinated by business, someone that's always just wanted to build companies and make money ever since I was a child, my solution for almost every major problem and desire in life is simple. Make more money. That's almost always the solution to most of those things. I'm not saying making money and having money is the solution to all life's problems or to making someone happy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you make more money in your life than you're making today, the odds are pretty good that your lists that you just made are going to be a heck of a lot smaller. So money does solve a lot of problems in life and can make a lot of desires and wants come true. So if you want the new Jaguar, it's going to come down to making more money. And then it comes down to thought, how can I make more money? You need to think of the solutions to do that. How can I make more sales in my business? I need more traffic to my website. I need to create new products. I need to start a new business. I need to do this. I need to do that. Think of things, realistic things. Even if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it yet, think of the things that you need to do that can be the solutions to get what you want. There's a solution to almost everything that you've written down on any of these pads, with the rare exception, like, kind of the cancer fear. There's not a 100% solution, but for most of these things, within reason, unless you just want to own the world, there are realistic solutions. If you want to have your own island, there are realistic solutions that will let you get your own island. That's how other people that own islands got them in the first place. So don't underestimate the fact that there are solutions to everything you want, or everything you want within reason. So really think long and hard what those things are. And again, it's not maybe about coming up with the exact blueprint for how to get it. It's at least just coming up with concepts, methods, and thoughts that could be the possible solution or move you in the right direction for it. And finally, step 8. You got to go back to your to-do list, the first pad, and prioritize everything. Prioritize it, things that you really need to do as soon as possible. If you got a water bill that's overdue by 3 weeks, or an electric bill that's overdue by whatever, you probably want to pay that if you're able to pay it, so your electricity, your water isn't turned off. If you're having this mysterious back pain that's just killing you and it hasn't gone away in 2 months, you probably do want to finally go to the doctor and see really what's wrong with you. You know what to do. You're smart. You're able to prioritize these things for yourself. And you'll find that a lot of these things kind of get onto long-term lists and short-term lists, and then that will come together for you. But prioritize them. Make it one. This is what will become your master to-do list. Now you can take little items off your master to-do list, which will be like what I hope to do today, and so you can kick butt and cross off as many of those things to do like tomorrow. But keep your master to-do list around, because you know what? When you think of new thoughts and start thinking of things to do, go to this pad and write it down. Keep it by your bed, or keep it on an end table or in a drawer by your bed. You wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking about something you need to do and it's on your mind, or even if you start thinking about something that's bothering you that you never even thought about, or something that you want that you never thought about, make a note of it, and you could just leave your master to-do list near your bed, because that's the one you'll be working on most. But if you think of fears and stuff, make small notes maybe in the back of it where there's a bunch of empty pages. But remember, at your first opportunity, you're going to move those things to the actual list, to your fear list, and to your desire and want list. But constantly add to the to-do list. Now let's back up for here one quick second. I talked before about the turning point that happened in my life when I was just about 23 years old and in over $100,000 of debt. Yeah, that's a lot of debt. You're probably wondering how in the world that ever happened. It's an awfully long story that I don't have time to tell here. It involved a lot of different credit cards and loans and failed business ideas and everything else. And it was just, bad decisions and mistakes that I made. And a lot of people, again, this is really corny for me to say out loud. A lot of people, my whole life have said, wow, you're so smart and everything else. And, how smart could I be? I ran myself into $100,000 of debt. I'm human, just like probably a lot of people listening to this that are in a lot of debt. And it's not about being smart or stupid or anything else. It's just about making choices in your life that didn't turn out to be the way you wanted them to. That's just life. That's how it goes. We will constantly and for the rest of our lives do things that don't work out the way we want. We will fail. It's guaranteed. So if you think you're going to go the rest of your life and you're just going to plan and be very careful about your moves and reduce your failures, you're probably a moron. And I say that jokingly, but that's just false thinking. In business, especially marketing, the way to make more money is to fail as quickly as you possibly can. Because the one thing in life that is a true asset in many senses of the word, senses, that's a funny word to say it like that. Anyways, in many ways of that word, or however you want to say it, it creates this thing that gives you value. And that thing is results. So if you do anything in life, you get a result. That result, whether it's a failure, is an asset. You'll now grow wiser knowing it. Maybe you'll never make that mistake ever again, or maybe you'll get an idea, new concept or strategy or something in your head that will help you create a better, bigger, faster plan to do whatever it was you were trying to do. So the problem with most entrepreneurs is they're afraid to take action just for a different reason, actually. I call it the hope factor. And just to sum that up is people buy products, they learn techniques, they learn all about how to make money, but they never do anything because they're afraid if they do go to do it and it doesn't work, they're done for. They're just done for. They'll never be rich. And so they feel better holding on to the warm and fuzzy feeling of putting that little course or kit or book on their shelf, knowing it will always be there if they ever want to actually get rich. It's a weird thing, but it's true. And I tell you this because that's how my mind was. That's the trap I got into. That's really what kept me from succeeding. And I know that's the case for like a lot of my own customers and students. It's just there. I don't know why the brain works that way. It just does. But the key is to fail as fast as possible. If you have an internet business, tomorrow the best thing you could do is just set up a new site, go to ClickBank or another affiliate site, close your eyes, point at a category, click on a page, close your eyes, point at a product, and then say, I'm going to set up a site right now, drive some traffic with Google AdWords for a few bucks, and see if I can sell it. Just as a challenge, just to do it, just to do it before lunch. Do it in the morning, set it up, see what happens, just for the heck of it. Do it. If you do that, it'll change your life. You'll probably be richer than you realize in 6 months or less. Because when you take action and you start to see results, that asset, whether it works or not, leads to amazing things. I can't stress that enough. Amazing things. So doing in life and taking action, regardless of the outcome, leads to amazing things. You've heard the old phrase, we all learn from our mistakes, yada, yada, yada. Trust me, it's true, and it's really true in business. Now, let me get back to this real quick. The thing that turned my life around when I was $100,000 in debt is because I did this, and this relates to this reboot process, and it helped me develop this process. This is where this all started. I would get my credit card statements in the mail, and I would just be deathly afraid to open them. I was so much in debt. I kind of knew in the back of my mind how much I was in debt and what I owed for different things and everything else. And I was just so depressed about it. So I was like, I brainwashed myself. I was like, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to look at the balances when they come in. I'm just going to throw them in a drawer. When people call, I'll ignore it. I'll think it's a wrong number, even though I see right there on the caller ID, that it's Citibank or whoever it is calling to bug me why I haven't paid my bills. But the big mistake that I made and what I eventually realized and how I eventually turned my life around financially, and I really believe it helped me build wealth, was this. One night, I finally got sick and tired of being afraid of my debt. So just for the heck of it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into my drawer and open all these statements. And almost as in a sick joke to make myself more depressed. I was like, I'm going to get all these statements out. I'm going to add up all the money, and I'm going to sit down and laugh at how much it is I'm really in the hole. So I'm like, let's see what it really is. Let me face this fear and just see what I'm really afraid of. And I'm just going to be pathetic and just sit and roll around and get entertainment out of how pathetic I am. Because, hey, let's face it. The difference in 50,000 and 100,000 really doesn't matter when you're that much in debt. And that's how I felt. And maybe it's the same for you, whether it's 2,000 or 5,000. You may not be as much debt as I was, but either way, the money is it's a controlling thing. The debt will control your mind. It will control your happiness, and it will ruin you if you let it. So I opened up all those statements, I added up all the numbers, and I saw that I was over $100,000 of debt. I think it was like $108,700 and something, or something ridiculous. And in that time, I actually noticed things on my credit card statement. Like a printer, I think I bought at one time for about $400 from Circuit City. I did some brief math just by looking at a different statement, and I realized I believed that printer that I bought for $400 had cost me already like $1,200 or $1,500, and I still haven't paid any of the principal off. I hadn't paid any of the principal. Even the few payments I made, and made for a few years, only paid the interest. And so, I laughed about it. I was like, that's a pretty expensive printer, and it wasn't really that good. It'd be great if it printed money or something. Then maybe it would be worth it, but it wasn't that good. So I looked at all these numbers, and I wrote them all down, and I wrote that big 108,000 number, and I put it on my wall. I put it right in front of me, taped it to the wall. Again, I was doing this almost as a sick joke. This was an accident. I just wanted to kind of laugh at myself because I was so depressed. At that point, all I could do was laugh. So I looked at it, and something weird happened to me during that process of facing it and looking at it. I felt kind of liberated and free, even though I was actually in more debt than I thought. So then I actually printed up a list on my computer. I stayed up to about 4 o'clock in the morning that night, made a list of all the debts I had, every single possible thing in my life that I owed, because debt is what was making me unhappy. That was my biggest fear. I was afraid of just everything that went along with being in so much debt. So I wrote them all down, and I looked at those numbers, and I just looked at it, and I said, you know what? I said, this is what's controlling my life. This is it. It's not worse than this. It's not a list twice this long. It's just this list. And so I knew if I could find solutions and start dealing with just this list, and if I could have any kind of incremental improvement whatsoever to make this list better, or in the case of the money, smaller, a smaller owed amount, as if obviously if I could slowly pay some of it off, if I could get to 107,000, I have a lot less to be afraid of than if I was at 108,000. Doesn't seem that way, but it's true because I have less to be afraid of and less to worry about this thing controlling my life. And what I found was my life began to quickly change. I started to do different things in my business. I started maybe to take more action and do things, and I started to make smarter moves, and I slowly started chipping away at my debt. $50 at a time, $20 at a time. I would do little projects and work and make money and then pay it off. And then my focus became about paying off what was controlling my life. Whoops. So it came down to that, about what was controlling my life. So eventually, and very, very rapidly, in probably less than 2 years, I got completely out of debt. And then I got, on the positive side. And then I started saving money and growing money and seeing my business grow. And again, ultimately, it made me a self-made millionaire at a very young age. And I continue to learn from that, even, as I move on in life towards how I do business and everything else. And you'll find the same thing in your business. Obviously, if you came to this thing from my list and you're learning about marketing, you'll find that you create exponential growth in your business and in your wisdom, that you get better at this game and you can make money faster, and you continue to add to your process of you'll learn that succeeding is a joke. It's easy. I hate to say that and almost like make people think, I'm full of crap. It's not true. It is true. I'll tell you this right now. It's a joke. For me to make money is a piece of cake. It's easy. Now I can't just have $1 billion show up in my mailbox. I think I will in about 25 years or maybe 15 years. But that is if I don't decide enough's enough and I'm tired of working so many hours. Right now I enjoy it and it's fun. But anyways, you'll find that your skills become exponential. You'll gain confidence in yourself, and you'll do more faster. Well, that happens with all this stuff in this whole process. So anyways, If you're in debt like I was, I want to give you some advice. Stop sweeping it under the rug. Stop thinking out of sight, out of mind. Because here's the point I want to get at, and what I discovered and how I created this whole process for everything else in my life. I find that the things that we don't face, the things that we kind of just say, I don't want to deal with it because it makes me unhappy, I think those things have a detrimental effect in all aspects of our life, and we don't even realize it. By you not facing your debt, or facing any of this stuff, or even realizing you need to call your Aunt Susan, you're taking a valuable space in your brain, that you could be using for other thoughts, or strategizing about things, or thinking about new things that you want, or new ways to do things in your business. You're just using up valuable hard drive space. And what's funny is, even though you're not trying to consciously think about it, subconsciously you're probably stressed out and unhappy, maybe even having panic attacks over things that you're worried about and that you're afraid of and that you're unhappy about, like debt. Even though you're not consciously trying to think about it, it's not going to go away. It's there, and your brain is smart. It knows it, and it has that effect on you. But I find, at least I found for myself, and I know others have too that I've shared this with, all those debts, print them out, stick it on the wall, have it next to your computer, face it every single day. Say, there it is, that's reality. Because guess what? That's never going to change until you make it change. It's just like weight. If you're overweight, you're unhappy about it, the best thing you can do is get up every single day and weigh yourself and beat yourself up over it. I hate to say it, some people may not agree with me, and I don't mean to be cruel to people that maybe have real health issues that keep them from losing weight, like gland problems or other things. I'm not saying that if you really don't honestly have a way to lose weight, that you need to beat yourself up over it. Of course, you don't need to beat yourself up over anything. It's not healthy. I was kind of exaggerating that phrase. But if you're overweight, you're not happy, weigh yourself constantly. Constantly remind yourself. Take a picture of your big fat face and put it on your big fat wall and face your big fat reality. Look at it every day. Say, there I am, I'm fat, and I don't like it, and I want to do something about it. Weigh yourself every day. I'm 292 pounds. It's what makes me the most unhappy in life. It's the one thing that I desire that I didn't have that was different. Face it. Stop sweeping it under the rug. Get it out of your head and get it in front of you. And you'll find that you'll be much more likely to start changing it and doing away with it than you will if you just put it in the back of your head and say, I'm not going to focus on it because it makes me unhappy. So if you're in debt, especially, don't fall into that trap. It will poison you. It will literally ruin your life. Debt is really nothing to be afraid of. They're just a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper. They're not going to jump out and bite you on your arm and give you some kind of poison like a rattlesnake. They're not going to jump off the page and poke you in your eyes so you go blind and you can't see anymore. They're not going to take one of your kids away from you, and put them down a deep dark hole. Obviously now I think of it, that's a bad analogy because if you were in super bad shape and you couldn't support your kids, maybe they would be taken away from you. And so I apologize for making that joke for someone that is in that situation. But seriously, they're just numbers. They're really nothing to. The numbers themselves aren't going to come off the page and take your kids away from you. In that example, they're just numbers. Think of it as a game. It's like a scoreboard on a video game. When you play a video game, and if you ever played video games, and you're kicking and punching and killing monsters or people or doing whatever it is that you do in the game, it's a game. When you die in the game's over. You go on about your day. You forget all about the game. It's a game. And in that game, there's a scoreboard with numbers. That's how most video games work. It's a score that you're trying to shoot more of this to get more points or whatever, and you're trying to raise the score. Guess what? That's all debt is. Debt is just a bunch of numbers. It's a video game. Don't be afraid of it. Learn to be better at the game that you're choosing to play to get rid of those numbers. That's where your focus should be. How can I get rid of those numbers and reduce the numbers? By the way, everything in life is about an incremental progression. It is about incremental improvement. It is about progressing. Everything in life is linear. You start at one point and you're moving towards something at another point. If you want to make money, you don't start by making $1 million. You make $1 first. Then you make 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 100, 500. That's how it's worked for everyone that's ever built wealth. They don't just come out of the gate and say, boom, $1 million. Same thing with losing weight. All weights lost 1 pound, actually 1 ounce at a time, 1 day at a time. But by doing anything and progressing, that's how you make progress. That's how you change your life. Same thing with the debt. Start by eliminating $5, just $5 from your debt total. It'll change your life. You'll be in a totally different position. You don't have to fear 108,350 anymore. Now you just have to fear 108,345. But it will change your life. So get all that stuff down. Now, congratulations, you've successfully rebooted your brain. That concept I just taught you, those 8 steps, you should feel pretty darn good right about now, or as soon as you go and do this. And you will. You'll feel liberated. You'll probably feel more free in your head than you've ever felt in your whole life if you really push yourself to mental exhaustion to dump all those thoughts out. You should feel great. And you've probably never done this in your life. And by the way, the next time you do this, it'll go a lot faster because the bulk of that stuff is probably 20 or maybe 40 years worth of crap. So you've dumped it out. So congratulations when you've gone through the process. I do want to congratulate you because you've rebooted your brain. You've kind of wiped the slate. You got stuff on paper. You may want to take your notes on your paper and type it into the computer if you'd like to do that better and print it out and have some sheets. But make some copies of your lists. Put them in a safe place. Maybe store your lists in a safe deposit box if you have it, or at a relative's house that you trust, or somewhere you can put it where no one will look at it if it's private and personal. You don't want someone looking at it. But put them in 2 different places so you don't have to worry about, if my house burns down, I'm going to lose that list that I spent 6 hours building. So make copies of it and feel at ease that the information's safe and nothing's going to happen to it and that you're not going to lose it. But then take a deep breath and feel good about it, that you don't need to hold on to all that stuff in your brain anymore. It's on paper now, or you've put it in the computer afterwards. By the way, don't try this dump exercise while you're in the computer. Worst thing you can do. You must get away from the computer and freely write with pen and paper. A lot that goes into that, I believe, with the connection your brain makes to your actual hand writing on paper. And there have been studies about this. So don't type it up. Write the letters on paper. But feel good and secure that you have it on paper. You don't need to walk around town thinking about, I got to call my Aunt Susan. It's on your list. You've prioritized it. You'll get to it when your time permits. Everything else that you ever wanted to do that you thought about, it's on your list. You don't need to focus so much on it. You'll still have things pop in your head and stuff, but try to be at ease with the fact that you don't have all that crap stuck in your head anymore. Because how many times have you ever thought about, I know there's something I wanted to remind myself to do? Guess what? We do that every single day. And for the rest of your life, your brain will come up with new thoughts, new ideas, and new things that you think of to do. But if you're smart and you want to live a happier life and be a free, better thinker, trust me, every time you think of something to do, run over to your pad, write it down. It's awesome. It's truly awesome. And not only that, it'll help you take more action and change your life in that regard anyways. But it will free up your head and you'll think at a higher level, I promise you. You'll think about thoughts that are more powerful than you've ever had. You'll be more creative. And you'll just be more efficient in your thinking. Again, sounds like a bunch of hokey pokey crap. Do the exercise, do it well, and you'll see for yourself the change that happens. It's amazing. Okay, now what? So you've done this thing. You've rebooted your brain. Now what? It's time to take action with your master to-do list. I've already kind of went over this. You just start at the top and you get to work. When you complete an item, take a pen and put a big fat line through the item. Strike it off your list. And I tell you what, there's nothing more fulfilling than taking a pen and drawing through a line of something you had to do, representing that you accomplished it. And by the way, when you get done with pages, even when you've kind of struck through everything, don't throw them away. I want you to keep them, store them somewhere in a file. Because it's amazing, and date them, by the way. Kind of put a little date next to the area of when you're accomplishing things. Put them in a drawer. And you may, after you do things before you file it away, make a little note about why you did those things if it was towards a bigger solution. Maybe it's some things, and just make a note, say, because I was afraid of, having a heart attack or a stroke, and so I wanted to do these things. So file it away, and it's great to look back. I have some of my lists from, 10 years ago, and it's just ridiculous to look at where I was and the things I thought about doing and how so far past that I am now. It's a neat thing, and it'll be great for your brain to take a look back and something to feel good on. The next thing you do is make sure to keep details about your fears. And again, these are the ones you can do something about near you at all times. I kind of already went over this. The stuff you can change in your life If you have fears and it's controlling you and you're stressed or, depressed about it, guess what? These are things, again, I'm talking about that you could actually do something about, that there is a solution for. And if it's a solution that's really within your grasp, even if it may take a year, like to lose a lot of weight, maybe it'll take a year, but guess what? Like I said before, life's too short to be afraid of stuff and let fear control you. But if this is your case, where you are afraid of things that you can control, because the hardest thing in life are things that are beyond our control. And a lot of us worry about things that are beyond our control. And that in and of itself is idiotic, because if we can't control it, what are we thinking about it for? And that's not going to change. We've got to get over it. Well, the fears that we think about that we can change, like weight loss, that we know we could lose weight if we did this or that, that's really controlling us. If you don't do something about it, the only person you have to blame is yourself. It's not the world's fault. It's not your neighbor's fault. It's not your gossipy sister's fault. It's your fault. You can do anything you want in life. All those things you already wrote down after you finish that process that you want in your life, I guarantee you probably 90% of them, unless it's some, I want to be able to fly, or I want to be able to be invisible. If it's kind of real world stuff, even if it's like I want my own island, the fact is 90-something% of probably the things you wrote down you could have, and you can have them within less than 5 years. By the way, a lot of people believe in like 5-year plans and 10-year plans. I personally, this is just my own philosophy, I don't think of that stuff. I make general notes about 5 years about where maybe things could be, but they're pretty much on a huge level. It's a big thinking kind of level. But I believe, and I'll just leave you with this thought, I believe that there's no reason to think about 5 years down the road and think about this deep thought for a moment. Whatever you would hope to accomplish in 5 years from now, the steps to do it are exactly the same, whether you do them in 5 years or in 5 months. For example, if you want to take a business from nothing to doing $5 million a year in sales, maybe that's 2,415 actual steps of action that you would take to get there. And maybe some of them would take quite a bit of time. But those 2,000 and something steps are probably exactly the same, whether you do them in 5 weeks or 5 years or 5 months. The steps are the same. It's a linear process. It's a finite process. The steps are the same. So think about that. Anything you want to accomplish in your life, the steps to do it are the same. And in many cases, we totally overestimate how long something's going to take. Stop doing that, especially with making money. It doesn't take that long. I've literally witnessed people, and Frank Kern's cousin comes to mind, and it reminds me I want to actually interview him, and I think it would be great for my list. Here's somebody, for example, that knew nothing about internet marketing. Frank was living in a, kind of a boring town in Georgia. I won't name the town to insult anyone in Georgia. Macon. Anyways, Frank was living in a town that he wasn't happy with. He was kind of bored, and he didn't know anybody that had anything to do with internet marketing. And as you know, if you're listening to this and you have an internet marketing business, it's a lonely business, and it's hard not having friends or family know what the heck you do for a living. Well, Frank felt that way, and he really didn't have anybody local that he could, go to lunch with and talk about anything else. So, one day he was just talking to his younger cousin, and he was like, you should do this internet marketing stuff. And Frank even admits that he kind of just did it for selfish reasons for himself, so he'd have somebody to talk to about this stuff. But ultimately, he did want to help his cousin and everything else. Well, his cousin knew nothing about it, and literally in a very short time, went from nothing to making $100,000 a month. Consistently. And growing. And the guy's crazy. He's way more proficient at this stuff than I am. And I've been doing it for almost 20 years. He just takes action. He doesn't screw around. Now, he doesn't have the skill set that Frank or I do, or other marketers do. He doesn't know as much about all the little nitty-gritty marketing details because we've been studying this for so many years. But guess what? He's succeeding more than 99.9% of all the people on the internet trying to make money because he's taken action. Because he's like, oh, these are the steps that you need to take? I'll just go home and do them this week. I'm not going to wait 2 years. So you got to get it through your head. Making money doesn't have to be a 5-year plan to get to where you want to get. Really think about the steps it takes and find a way to get it done faster. Managing your time is a big deal. Obviously, that's a whole other video. But there it is. Keep your fears around and face them, and you'll know what needs to be done to get rid of them. And, of course, always work on your to-do list and get done the things that you know need to get done. Reboot your brain at least once a month. You'll definitely want to do this often. Again, when you do this exercise again, it's going to go a lot faster. You can just add to the existing pads you already have. Sit down, do it again. Think all the things you got to do that you don't have on the pad. Write them down. Same thing. Am I afraid of anything that I haven't written down? Do I want anything new this week? Maybe I saw this new sports car in a magazine that I really wanted. Whoops. Shh. It's my dog barking like crazy. For my fear of the fact that it's 4 o'clock in the morning and someone probably just broke in my house about to shoot me. Hey, stop barking. Anyways, so you'll want to do this at least once a month and just add the things to your notepad, and that's it. And you'll get the new things out of your head, and it won't take very long because in a month you really don't have that much time to think of that much new stuff. We do think of a lot of thoughts every single day. Like how you can make a small chihuahua stop barking in 3 minutes or less. Hey, would you please stop? What are you barking at? It's okay. So anyways, do it once a month. So, last but not least, do you know someone that needs to reboot? Of course, feel free to share this video with others. I really did make this to help a lot of people. I'm not making any money from it. Yes, of course, I'm a marketer. Yes, of course, there's probably going to be links on my site that go to my other products, whatever else. If someone's interested, they are. If they're not, I really don't care, to be perfectly honest with you. I did set this up to help a lot of people. I did create this concept, this method, and I know it works, and it's worked for other people I've shared it with. Feel free to share it with anybody you want, and please start using it. And all I say is just do me this favor. I don't care if you don't believe of anything else in your life. Go through the process I just taught you to do one time. Just give it one shot. Do it once, and whatever happens, even good or bad, maybe it won't do anything for you, and you'll be like, that was a waste of time. That guy's crazy. Whatever you do, post on this blog and make a comment about what you got out of it, what you think of this whole thing. I want to hear from you, and so do other people. I'm going to leave these comments up for anyone that ever comes to this page to see what other people got out of this. Maybe people went and did this exercise and what they felt like afterwards, or how it may have helped them. Do it. Again, this isn't for any sinister reason that all of a sudden I'm releasing a video or a book on this thing and I want testimonials for. My customers know me too well, and they think every little thing I do is a marketing move, and a lot of times it is. But in this case, it's really not. Post your thoughts, because I really think it'll help other people, and I really want to see how it's helping other people, because this is something that I created myself through most of my life, and I'm kind of proud of it, and so I want to see what it does for other people. So again, if you want to share this with other people, it's just www.marketingsecrets.com/reboot.html. That little URL will automatically redirect to the full blog post, which is, I think, some kind of a longer, more complicated URL. So that's it. Reboot your brain. Go sit down, do this exercise, come back, post, tell us how it was. How does it feel? What'd you get out of it? How's your life going to be different from doing it? Thanks for listening.